Hello and welcome to Racers Now, sponsored by Welcome Estates for all of your Spanish property needs. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Cheltenham Festival. And with me today, I've got making his debut. Regular viewers may have seen him on oddsnow.com with his Fowler on the Festival written column every week. But we've got Harry Fowler with us today. So, Harry, making your debut. You've not got a lot to live up to with what goes usually, but how
Yeah, really excited. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's drawing close now. I've only got 3 weeks to go now, so long may it continue and enjoy all this madness leading to the festival.
Yes, it certainly is. We're pretty conscious that SD and I don't often cover the Cheltenham Festival. We don't really get caught in that hype train very often in the week-to-week stuff. He's at Wolverhampton tonight. That's his bread and butter. But we do need to be looking at the festival, like you say, less than 3 weeks away now. 3 weeks today. The Tuesday will already be in the bag, in the history books. And that's what we're going to start with. We're going to look at the 4/5 major championship races. Then maybe looking to see if there's any novices worth mentioning at this stage. We're going to be playing Willie Mullins bingo as we go. There'll probably be some Nicky Henderson bingo, and we might be picking out some value, if there is any, to be had in the markets at this stage. Obviously, these anti-post markets get going from October onwards, or even a year in advance. So there's only one place to start. That's the Champion Hurdle. Constitution Hill is 4-6, 4-7. Obviously won this in 2023, missed last year. We all know the story, unbeaten, under rules, etc., etc. Then we've got the issue in this race of the ladies. Brighter days ahead, Lossiemouth, will they, won't they? State Man won last time in pretty much a one-runner race. Plenty of question marks in this race. What do you think of it at the moment as it stands?
I can see brighter days ahead turning up here, and I think as much as the Willie Mullins 2-year plan as everything they say, I do think if brighter days ahead was to line up here, I think they would start looking at Lossiemouth, especially with that heavy fall in that one, what ended up being a one-horse race for State Man. I think they would then look and go, well, we've got a penalty kick in the Mayor's Hurdle, and we'll give it a go next year. But I can't have State Man. I simply can't have him. I think. Well, obviously, we learned nothing last time anyway, but we've seen him twice, and Brighter Days Ahead beat him twice. So it would be good to see Brighter Days Ahead in here. I mean, I think Constitution Hill beat her no matter what, because I do think that she can go quick from the front, and he'll just sit in behind her, and then that turn of foot towards the end, he will hopefully. I mean, we've all been looking forward to seeing him back here to regain his title after last year's. State Man had a bit of a penalty kick in the Champion Hurdle, which doesn't seem right, really. But yeah, so looking forward to Constitution Hill, really.
I think it is a bit of a head scratcher to me because Constitution Hill has obviously been fantastic, but since he's been back, and it was a long break, he was off literally a year to the day, 365 days. Lossiemouth didn't turn up at over Christmas at Kempton on Boxing Day in that Christmas hurdle, and I said before that. And after, I don't think 2 miles is to her optimum. She'll win over 2 miles, but maybe in a lower, in a lesser race than against Constitution Hill. But I just don't think she's made out for 2 miles. I think she's proven that on 2 starts this year. I know she fell against State Man, but yeah. So my question is about Constitution Hill. Since he's been back, what has he beat really? Because going purely on RPRs, when he won that Champion Hurdle against State Man, by 9 lengths, he was RPR of 177, which is fair enough. Now, we can take out that the Cheltenham Festival racers are more competitive and they run to a higher level and they kind of stand alone, if you like. There's grade 1. I've said this on the channel before. There's grade 1s in jumps racing. Then there's Cheltenham Festival grade 1s, right? So if we just park that to one side for a minute, he ran to 175 in the Christmas Hurdle 22 before winning the Champion Hurdle in 23. And at Aintree, after winning the 23 Champion Hurdle, he ran to 167. So far, this is on RPRs. So far, since his return, on Boxing Day, he was 162. Fair enough. And then at Cheltenham, when we saw him on Trials Day, he didn't have to do anything at all. He didn't even get out of a jog, and he's gone off an RPR of 150. So what I'm saying is, he's not been in a race at all since his return. He's had a year off. He's returned and cantered round twice. Now, Lossiemouth on the form book did finish second, 2.5 lengths, fair enough, over Christmas in 24. But she never looked like winning that race, let's be honest. She just wasn't herself. She never looked like winning that race at all. Still finished second. So my point being is, Constitution Hill has faced nothing since he has returned. They do say that after they've been off for so long and from injuries or whatever, he had illness, injury, whatever, it's difficult to get them back to the level that he was previously. Now, we're going to find out if he can get there, because if Brighter Days Ahead runs, or Lossiemouth and Stateman for that matter, he's obviously going to have to be better than what he's been on 2 starts so far this season. So, in a nutshell, when we do our preview evening, and the question might be, would you be a backer or layer of Constitution Hill? Well, at 8-13, and he probably could go off shorter on the day when 1 or 2 of these come out, I'd be a layer. Do you see any credit in what I'm saying there about, I don't think he's faced anything or had to get out of even first gear since he's been back, and I think he's worth taking on?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. It's an obvious case there, but I think at the same time, Lossiemouth had her best chance to ever beat him, and she didn't, and that's the only chance she's going to get. That's the way I see it. But then, obviously, I don't know. Does he need to get back to what he was? He doesn't need to post an RPR of 177 to win this. I don't think, even with Bright Days Ahead in there. But it will be very interesting.
He would. Now, he could have obviously won a long way clear. It was a five runner race on Cheltenham Trials Day. Yeah. That was to 150. Now, I'm not saying he's going to run to 150 again, but if he did, he wouldn't get away with it in this.
So no chance, no.
But the opposite argument to that is saying, he didn't get out of first gear. He could have ran to 165 if he wanted to that day. That may be true. And Constitution Hill might come back in what could be a deeper champion hurdle this time than when he won it in 23. If all 4 of them turn up, we'll come on to that in a minute. And he could go and be put in the best hurdling performance ever, certainly of this century. That could easily happen with the depth in opposition that are currently in there in Brighter Days Ahead, Lossiemouth and Stateman, on the assumption or hope that all 3 of those run in opposition. He could go and put in a stormer. But if they all 3 do run, it's going to be a totally different racing prospect, particularly with the tactics. Brighter Days Ahead may well, or probably should, go to the front. I just think it's a completely different kettle of fish to what he's done in his last 2 races. That's where I stand. On the 2 ladies, surely, I know they're in different ownership and I know they're in different trainers. Surely there's an angle whereby they make a phone call and say, are you going for the champion? Yeah? Mr. O'Leary, Mr. O'Leary, this is the American Mr. Ritchie on the phone. Are you going for the champion? Yes. Well, then we'll go for the Mears. I can see that happening all day long. I do not think that both of these ladies will run in the champion hurdle. At least one of them won't run in the champion hurdle.
Yeah, they won't run against each other.
Yeah,
there's no way they run against each other. No,
there is way.
I agree.
There is way because there is definitely they should be both running in this champion.
Yeah, they should be. Yeah, I just think that one of them will see the penalty kick.
Yeah. Correct. And that's where me and you agree. So under different ownership, under different trainer, yes, they should both be. There should definitely be no collusion, but I think there could well be. On Mr. O'Leary, we've heard him say many times before, if you've got a mare if you've got a horse that qualifies for the Mare's hurdle, go and win it. We've seen that many times before. Apple's Jade, was it? Lossiemouth, you mentioned earlier, this has been part of the 2-year plan. But she fell badly last time. She fell really heavily last time. I don't know. Was there any comments today from another one of those Willie Mullins stable tours? There's been about 15 of them. Was there any comment today on Lossiemouth?
I don't know. I think they came out the other day. I think it was, I can't remember where it was, but because she was a bit of uneasy on the exchanges for both races, so a lot of people were starting to think whether she was even going to turn up to either of them. But the Rich Ritchie basically put that to bed. But I mean, we're still 3 weeks out, so you don't know quite exactly what. But I mean, it's only the owner's word, really.
And on Stateman, do you think he's gone? Do you think he's gone at the game? I mean, it's hard to tell because he's been beaten by 31 lengths in a race that might never happen before. Might never happen in terms of Brighter Days Ahead, absolutely bounded clear over Christmas. But then at the DRF, Lossiemouth fell, as we well know, and Stateman cantered round. Now, Lee Jones, who's coming on our preview night, has a theory, and if you watch it back, that Daddy Longlegs, at the point when Lossiemouth fell, they were 35 lengths clear, maybe more, of Daddy Longlegs. And actually, at the line, he was only 6.5 lengths clear. And I said, yeah, but he might well have been eased down, But if you go and watch it back, the gap is definitely a lot closer than what it probably would have been maybe a furlong or two before. So There is definitely a theory out there. It's not an original theory because he has been beaten twice this season that Stateman is on the slide. What's your opinion on him?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that I did put in my column a couple of weeks back, that I do think if you look back at Stateman, what has Stateman, I mean, what has he actually beat? Like, there's horses like Echoes in Rain. I mean, the about as good a horse as he's beat is Honeysuckle, and that was in her second last year, where she didn't even go to the Champion Hurdle. She went to the Mare's Hurdle. Obviously, she won it. But, you know, there's a lot of horses in there that I looked through and I was like, yeah, okay, he beat them. Beat like last year, Irish Point. He beat. I mean, it wasn't exactly a Lemp's job, was it? He only just beat
Well, he's done
Irish
bugger all
Point.
since. He's done bugger all.
Yeah,
Irish.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, he's out for the season. But yeah, I'm always kind of looking at all the form, and I can't really see Stateman ever really putting in a monstrous performance and really putting a decent horse to bed. So I mean, if I think all three of the other horses above him in the market would beat him.
Yeah, and that's how the market's got it at the moment. Stateman's top price 8-1,
Yeah.
Lossiemouth 5, Brighter Days at 11-4. Of all the races you could talk about at Cheltenham, this is probably the one that's most connected to the exchange, if you like, keeping an eye on the exchange prices. If there's murmurs that one of the ladies is going to go to the Mares race, etc., or vice versa, you'll probably see it there first. Yeah, all I'm saying is I would be happy to take on Constitution Hill. With a lay bet, even at 8-13, if this race was taking place tomorrow and all four of them win there, I'd be happy to take him on. With the caveat that if, and I know this sounds a bit fanboyish and a bit amateurish, with the caveat that if he goes and wins, and he wins well, it could be one of the best performances of the century. And if that's the case, then so be it. But for at the moment on the exchange, you know, for every 20 quid that you're putting up as a liability, you know, it's costing you 17 quid type thing, you know. So that's that, and I think he might well be shorter on the day as well. Right, we could spend all day on that race. So yeah. Well, the question for you then, Harry: if all four of these ran tomorrow, who do you think will win, regardless of price? I don't care what price they are. Who do you think would win if all four ran tomorrow?
Constitutional.
Right, there we go. Then there we go. That's but you know, and that's what the market suggests. I mean, it's all good. It's all well and good putting up 50-1 shots that don't return any money. I mean, you're not going to get any rewards for that. Right, on to the next championship race, which is on the Wednesday, day 2, the champion chase itself. Jonbon, Gaelic Warrior, Energumane, who has been beaten last time. Marine Nationale been in the news this week. Ile Francois is the fly in the ointment, if you like. He's still a potential for 3 different races. Solness has been winning recently as well. This Jonbon, he's won God knows how many grade 1s now. Is it 7, 8, etc.? Never really done it at Cheltenham. Is there a theory behind that, or has he just been unlucky? He missed last year with the Nicky Henderson fever or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I mean, in his career, he's had 20 races, won 17 of them, and there's been 3 seconds, all of them at Cheltenham. Now, I mean, obviously, you've got Constitutional and the Supreme. We can happily put a line through that. And then there was what was the race the other year? He got beat, and he absolutely smashed the fence. It was at Trials Day, I think.
Oh yeah, he got by that Ile Danute.
Yes. I mean, that one again, I think his jumping's a lot better than what it was back then. Like, I remember at the start of the season when I think it was one of the first, I think it was in November when we saw him. And we were sort of saying that he does have a jumping error in him, and he hasn't really made one yet this season. So I do kind of forgive him on that one, that his jumping's better. He looks better than ever. So I do. It's definitely a niggling worry. But then I'm looking at the market. I'm trying to figure out what could beat him, and I'm finding it very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, he's like you say, his form is probably is better than ever. I mean, he's giving RPRs regularly in the 170s this season alone, and maybe this Cheltenham thing is just A, because he's ran behind good horses, Constitutional being one of them. B, because he was a bit younger and didn't jump as well, or C, because of Nicky Henderson, a load of his just missed the festival completely last season. You can see it either way. It's a kind of price whereby people are going to get stuck in either way. Either they don't believe in the Cheltenham myth, they think he's head and shoulders above the rest like you do, or they do think he's got an error in him. The undulating track at Cheltenham might not be to his liking in comparison to an Ascot or lesser so a Sandown. So there is going to be plenty of opinion on Jonbon either way. Do you think, would you be a player or a layer?
I find myself in a bit of a middle here. I don't know whether I'd want to play him at that price, but then I don't think I'd want to lay him either, because I think the main problem is you're looking at the rest of the market and going, okay, right, if I was going to lay him, what do I think will beat him?
Mm.
And you're looking at, I mean, you're looking at like Gaelic Warriors put in 2 rubbish efforts. I mean, obviously Leopardstown hates Leopardstown. Ile France was last round in the King George. He's dropped down a whole mile to run here. And I think in the end probably will go to the Ryanair.
Okay.
Then Marine Nationale, who's then been beaten by Solness. And then Energumen, he's already beaten. But then again, I do think the ground was too quick. The ground would have to come up soft, heavy for Gaelic Warrior and Energumen to really put up a good effort. And I think that's the only way he gets beat as such. Because I just can't really see anything else being good enough to beat him. Even if he did go below par, I think he could still win, is the issue.
Yeah, and like you say, Gaelic Warrior has got more recent jumping errors in his CV than Jonbon has. Jonbon's kind of removed that from his game. Energumen got beat last time, another one that's coming way back from injury. Do you know who I would run in this? I don't think it's going to happen. Banbridge. I think Banbridge is perfect for this race. I really do. He isn't going to. It's not going to happen. He's obviously won a King George.
He's going to go to the Gold Cup.
My question to you would be then, as a bit of an arm's length observer like me, is Banbridge more likely to win a Champion Chase or a Gold Cup this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd probably say tentatively Champion Chase, but then I think he's the only one, again, if the ground came up like what he would run, because obviously if it was soft, he wouldn't run at all. He's the only one that could really put it up to Galopin de Champs. And I mean, you are sort of really taking a big risk going from winning the King George, then trying to go and win the Champion Chase. But yeah, I mean, there is also the it could be some pace as well, because you've got Solness, you've got Matata that are both going to go, and then obviously Ile France add into the mix. It could be a serious, almost a bit of a test. I mean, I think it could end up being a bit of a collapse if all 3 did show up, and it would be very interesting to see how the race really pans out if that was to be the case. Yep. I mean, I think a horse like Liberty Hunter might have half a chance at picking up a place if that was to be the case, if all 3 showed up. Just absolutely not that it's like going to win the race, but all 3, if they go hard early, that will pick up the pieces later on, I think. But then again, it would need all 3 of them to go mad.
Yeah, well, Liberty Hunter's in there at 40 to 1, you know, he's not a million miles off away from picking up the pieces. He's a million miles away from the favourite, but the rest of them, that could be an angle there. Yeah, so yeah, I don't mind that one at all. On to the Stayers Hurdle, used to be called the World Hurdle back in my day when you were still a lad. Is this just another straightforward one? This Teahupoo is a similar-ish price to Jonbon. It's just a shade of odds on with those that are not offering non-runner no bet at the moment. He does his usual thing. He has a run round Ireland in around December, and then they say we're going straight to Cheltenham. He should have won it in 2023 when an injured David Russell rode him. He did win it last year. Does he just win it again this year?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, this is the issue we've got here. We've got 4 championship races, and this is the biggest price we're getting. Yep. I mean, it's not great, but I think a lot of people are trying to take him on as well. And I think the angle people are using to take him on is that they didn't think he was to his best, well, as good as he has been in the Hatton's Grace, where he was beat by Lossiemouth, where they went an absolute crawl over 2.5 miles, so too short of a trip, and on good ground. I mean, it's just complete opposite of what Teahupoo wanted. It couldn't have been any worse for him. Yeah. And obviously, he got beat by a champion hurdle potential horse in a sprint, and people are taking him on because of that. I do think it's hard to sort of really, really be confident about taking him on. And Nicky Henson was pretty, he seemed pretty happy about Lucky Place and thought they had a good chance in the race. And then obviously Home by the Lee as well is another one that's, it's been spoken about. Yeah. And they said that last year it wasn't ridden properly, and they think he's a lot better than what he's shown at Cheltenham previously. So, but then again, you're looking at horses that have been beat by Teahupoo, not just once either. So I think it's not a great division. I think there is probably, I'd say Lucky Place and Home by the Lee are the only ones that could really put it up to Teahupoo. I'd think once you get into Gower Road, I think you're sort of yeah, you're struggling a little bit. But
Our favourite hurdler, Gal Road, my favourite.
tipped it. How many seconds was it?
So I've tipped it four times at Cheltenham this season, and it's finished second on every occasion. So I deliberately said on trials day that I wasn't tipping it, and obviously it went and won. So I kind of off tipped it through the back door. But as I always say about this division, it's either for horses that aren't quick enough for the champion hurdle, obviously, or are just head cases. I mean, if you scroll down here, there's still horses entered in this, like Hewick, for example, is still entered in this. Garlaw is still entered in this.
I saw that one.
Yeah. Asterion Volange, who's nearly as old as you, is still entered in this. And best of the lot, Goshen is still entered in this. It's a division full of like if SD was a horse, yeah, SD was a horse. He'll be in the Stayers hurdle. SD, he would. SD will be running in the Stayers hurdle if he was a horse.
That is brilliant.
So this Lucky Place, I have got my eye on Lucky Place because he beat that Gal Road on New Year's Day, only by just under a length. But then Gal Road has backed it up since. I thought he won pretty well at Ascot as well before then. He's got experience around Cheltenham. He was fourth behind that well handicapped horse Langadan last year. I don't mind him from a British perspective. I think he will run. And I think in each way, with those question marks, particularly over the ground, we don't know what the ground's going to be. And Teahupoo does depend on the ground quite a lot in his career.
Yes.
So Lucky Place would be the one for me if I was picking one at the moment. Where would you be?
I think Home by the Lee. I think is probably the most solid one because has won the staying races in Ireland, obviously without Teahupoo being there. But I think obviously if there is something to take it on, and I mean even if you were going to look at I think there's a couple of firms that have got priced up without the favourite. So I think can't remember what price. I think it was like 5-2, 7-2 between one of them two for without the favourite, and then I think that does really open up the market, and you do have a real interesting betting market when you do start taking out the favourites. Because I think some of them done it with all the championship races because, like I've said, they're all odds-on shots. Well, I think the champion hurdle they haven't because obviously there's not as many entered in that one.
Yeah, and the one thing with the Stayers hurdle, at least you kind of know that there'll be plenty of runners, even if most of them have got no chance.
They just chuck them in.
There'll be plenty of runners. On to the Gold Cup then, and I think this could be a small field for a Gold Cup, or one of the smaller fields, because Galopin des Champs is as short as 1-2 for this race. I think his best price about 8-15, which is pretty damn short. Banbridge is in there, as we've mentioned, at 7 or 8-1. Then Factor File, will he be going for the Ryanair or the Gold Cup? Not sure. He's as low as 9-2 with those non-runner no bet. Factor File big as 8-1 with the ones that are not non-runner no bet. I mean, the Gold Cup is such a difficult race to win. People don't really appreciate how hard the Gold Cup is to win. It's so far in distance. There's so many obstacles to jump. I know that sounds obvious, but it's true. Galopin des Champs is definitely the best horse in this race. You don't need me to tell you that. He's won it twice. He's 8-15. He has been sublime on his last two starts. He was fantastic on two starts so far this season. His two wins so far this season at Leopardstown. 3 starts in total. But he's just got to be one of those prices with those factored in. If, for example, Factor File goes to the Ryanair, I think LA Francais might have already been taken out this race. But if the field does come down a little bit and he's 1-3 on the day, it might look like a penalty kick on form. But I'd be just looking to lay him anyway because it's such a difficult race. That would be my angle into it anyway. But the question really, I could ask you a question about all 4. Of the 4, who do you think is the most likely to win? Forget the prices. Who do you think is the most likely and least likely to win? How would you rank the 4?
Oh, wow. I think that's the thing. I think in terms of the field and the best horses in the races, Galopin des Champs is the best horse, and there is a bigger gap between him and anything else. Yeah. But he's running in the Gold Cup, like you just said. I think that's the difficult thing. I think Constitution Hill's probably got the hardest. Especially with all things considered, but then obviously it depends what actually shows up on the day. I think if Bright Days Ahead doesn't show, then it really changes things. But yeah, I'd probably say he's got the hardest one. Then I think Jonbon's got to be one of the. I think I'd go Jonbon has got should be the shortest price, like the easiest one. I think because like I said before, and then I'd go Constitution Hill, then Teahupoo, then no, sorry, Jonbon
easiest,
yeah. Then Galopin de Champs, then Teahupoo, and then
Constitution Hill.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough. Well, that is interesting because I don't know. I'm going to contradict myself now because I said I would lay Constitution Hill, but I don't know. Constitution Hill is one of them for me that whereby head says that he's too short because he's beat nothing this season, but heart says I want him to waz in. I want all four of them in that race to run, and I want him to win by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lengths.
100%.
That's what my head wants to happen. But whether it will or not, this thing with Galopin de Champs, there's not many in there at the moment. I think only about 13, 15, something like that. And a couple of them could fall away. Banbridge, I know it's obvious, but he is the. I think you couldn't do it much wrong than back Banbridge each way anti-post now because I can see a couple of these coming out, and there might be a smaller field on the day. I'm not saying it'll be 6 or 7 on the day, but I can see it being the smallest field for a little while in the Gold Cup. My thing with Factor File, he was bang impressive. Obviously, last year, I mean, beat absolutely nothing in that Brown Advisory. Let's be honest, but he won as easy as you like. I mean, the horses in that have done bugger all since.
Did he Monty Star?
Yeah. What's he? I mean, has he done? It was not
but no, he's 4th favourite, or fourth in the market in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But
but yeah, I know what you mean.
My thing with Factor File was everyone's going round Leopardstown and it's Galopin de Champs' back garden, and they let him go to the front at the DRF, and there was about 4 different JP McManus horses in there, probably with different trainers. Factor File. I think I Am Maximus, the Grand National winner, was in there. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, why didn't anyone get up and bother him? Because Factor File beat Galopin in that John Durkan at Punchestown. I thought that was a really great race, yeah? And then in the Savills Chase, Galopin did what he was doing and they let him get away with it kind of thing. But no one seemed to learn from that. And it was no surprise that he went from the front at his beloved Leopardstown. No one seemed to learn from that. And I'm watching it thinking, because Factor File was travelling well enough, but it was 2 or 3 lengths behind Galopin. Not necessarily Factor File, but someone go and bother him, go and get in his face. And no one did that. And then when they did get anywhere near him over the last, Galopin just said, "See you later," and off he went.
I think there is a difficulty with that you're looking around at some of these horses, and then a lot of the horses in the race, either they couldn't, like you're looking at Iron Maximus, probably couldn't get up there with Galopin de Champs, and then the other ones probably couldn't stay with him the entire race. So
they don't need to stay with him the entire race. No. I'm talking team tactics. They need to stay with him for a furlong or 2, and then pass the baton onto Factor File.
It's just this is the thing. You're in Ireland and you've got Willie Mullins and JP McManus run the show. Did Willie Mullins over Christmas or either of them 2 races want Factor File to win or Galopin de Champs to win?
Oh yeah.
He wanted Galopin de Champs to win.
Yeah, well, Mr. Fowler, you'll learn some lessons from me over the years. You have to remember that who pays the bills for Factor File. Anyway, on Factor File, that brings us nicely because he's 3.15 on the exchange to win the Ryanair, and he's about 20 on the exchange to win the Gold Cup. So the exchange is suggesting that Factor File will run in the Ryanair, which is the 5th all-age Grade 1 of the festival. And like you say, he's 11-8 to win that, 7-4 top price. So this is another race, the Ryanair, where there's another short price favourite. This is the one whereby Il Francais is most likely to run in according to the exchange. I hope he does because it'll make a race of it. Gaelic Warrior could come in here. Protectorat won it last year, I think, etc. So this is the reserve race, if you like, the consolation race for some of those that maybe definitely don't stay the Gold Cup trip and might not be good enough to win a champion chase. They come in here. But it'll be an exciting race nonetheless. And, forget the Galopin de Champs talk. Fact File was excellent at the festival last year. Could well come here and win this one as well.
Yeah, I do think I was really hoping after before the last race of Factifile v Galopin de Champs that Galopin de Champs would beat Factifile again, because I did want Factifile in the Ryanair, because I think he's got a chance of winning that. I mean, you look at the John Durkin, that was over 2.5 miles, and he put in a great performance, and that was why he got past Galopin de Champs, because he sprinted past him basically, as opposed to staying on. I think this Ryanair could be a serious race though. Like, you think about this being the sort of like reserve race, but then you could have Factifile, Gaelic Warrior, Spillane Tower, Ile Francais, El Fabiolo, Protectorat, and even as Yellow isn't like, and then you've got Envoy Allen. I don't know whether he's intending to come here, but second in the race last year. Beat Jerry Colomb earlier in the season in Hewitt, but obviously Jerry Colomb has not run since. But yeah, it could be a serious race, this. And Ile Francais, like, he will be tough to pin back though, that's for sure. Because he will just go, and I mean, as long as there's no issues, which we do, we've sort of almost forgotten about in some ways, the fact that he has how many times sort of blown up and just completely gone in France. And I do think that is linked to ground as well. I do think as much as he has run well on softer ground, it's always been softer ground where it has been an issue.
Yeah.
And he's run twice at Kempton, sharp track on goodish ground, and he's run really well. Yep. So I do think that he does want the ground to be nicer. I'm quite intrigued to see what happens with Spillane's Tower now, because obviously got taken out of the Gold Cup, and then earlier in the season, I think they kind of half thought the Factifile was going to be in the Gold Cup and Spillane's Tower was going to be here. So whether they just completely both run against each other again, I don't know. But obviously that was the John Durkin, and that was a really good race as well. So it would be good to see them go against each other again. And one 7-4 and the other one 6-1. So
yeah, well, he went off 11-4 favourite for the King George. Let's not forget this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a poor race. I'm just saying it's always, every single year, it's always up in the air. It's always the one of the five that's up in the air in terms of who's going to run, and it's no different again this year. Factifile, who is probably third favourite for the Gold Cup on the with the bookies, but a clear favourite for this Ryanair if he was to run it. Right, before we wrap up, would you like to flag any novices? I know there's been some changes this year. They've removed a couple of Grade 1 novice racers, rightly so. Is there anything you would like to particularly flag about what might be going on with the novices?
Well, I mean, there's obviously some really good ones that we've seen after the DRF. We've saw the Supreme novices now been absolutely blown apart, and we've got an evens favourite in there. And I think that the only thing with Kopek the boards is he's an even money favourite, but you'll know before he gets out there, he'll either blow up in the prelims and that'll be his chance is gone, or if he gets out there all right, he'll win the race. And I think that's the thing with him. He has been too keen, but they're going to go flying off like they always do in Supreme. So I don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah.
But it's just whether he can get him out there and make sure of that. I think that would be the issue. Well, with an evens favourite, of course, he's only run twice now, so I think that is obviously one to have reservations of. You can't really call a novice a banker, I don't think, at the same time.
No, well, we see it every year. You know, the Supreme Novice has Erdal and Winnie Mullins has got the favourite, but he also has 4 others running in there as well. And there's not that many favourites-wise in the Supreme Novices as what you might think. So over the last 10 years, only 3 favourites have won, one of them being Constitution Ill. And, you know, there has been some, not massive prices, but plenty of 6s and 9s and, you know, 5-1ers like that, maybe a bit further down in the market. But like you say, he was very good at the DRF, that Kopek, and he kind of, you know, really stamped his name into the limelight, if you like. He'd only won a maiden hurdle before then. I thought he looked more. After watching that, I know it was over 2 miles. All his starts have been over 2 miles. I thought he would have preferred the 2.5 mile option. That was my thinking. But are they going to jump from early February 2 miles to 2.5 miles for the festival? Probably not. He's odds on for the Supreme, and he's 12-1 for what's now called the Turner's Novice Hurdle.
Yeah, I think it's also. I mean, they've said quite a few times about him being keen, so I think it would be the issue of that, trying to get him to settle early in his race. Then there's also the other issue of Willie Mullins has also got the favourite in the Turners.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, as usual. And then all the horses are jumping around trying to figure out which one they want to take on, as opposed to which distance would be best for us. Which one do we not want to race against?
Yep. Is there any? I know the weights have come out today, or the entries, if you like, for the handicaps have come out today. Is there any handicapper that you've got in your notebook that says back wherever it runs? Is there anything standing out for you at the moment before the weight, before the prices, etc.?
I think it's that Joyo Machen from the weekend is obviously one that is of real interest. The one that was second behind Outer Belly looks to be the it's being tipped as the new Langadan, as it is taking place in the Coral Cup. But then at the same time, they've also got Be Aware for the Skelton. So I'm not overly sure about that. I think Jericho de Repenate is a very interesting one of the attempts. Obviously, I think it is round up there in the market, but I will be very interested to watch that race at Exeter, where he sort of came home late. Came home late into third, and I mean, he stayed on well, and I think that was the main thing. Was he going to stay the trip? And he stayed the trip, and then he's sort
Is
of
he
looking...
the one that refused to run at Sandown earlier in the season? Have I got that right?
Yeah. Well, he didn't refuse to run; he ran, but then it was a chasing race, and then after about 2 fences, it was game over. Has been back over hurdles, ran a couple of races, but it's not really shown a whole lot. I think, I haven't really delved majorly into the handicaps. Resplendent Grey is one that I'm very interested in for. I think it's the Kim Muir and the National Hunt Chase. It's a horse that I think will. I mean, last time we saw him on trials day, he was over 2.5 miles, but. And it just all the way round. I mean, after about a mile, Sean Byrne was off the bridle. And I think it will stay. It's just where it goes. And the other one that's of interest is Git Maker in the Kim Muir.
Oh, SD likes that one.
Finished second last year, but I know the way you're thinking. Who won that race last year of 145, and is now favourite to win the national of 160.
Oh yeah, it was a joke. Yeah, it was a joke. I know the way you're thinking. Yeah.
So, I mean, if it was the only one that was even remotely close to, I know the way you're thinking last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's quite a big price as well. But
it's 25. It's 25 for the Kim Muir. That's with the guys that are not non-runner no bet. It'll be a bit shorter in the non-runner no bet market. For that weekly column, Harry, that you do for oddsnow.com, what's on the agenda this week when it's published?
Going to be looking at the Gold Cup because obviously this weekend we've just seen Long Press and Corbett's Cross in the Ascot Chase, how they got on, and then seeing what's actually what I think could actually make the race on the day, because I think we could have 7 for a Gold Cup. So I think that'll be the way to go this week.
Great. Well, we'll be tweeting that out tomorrow when that's published. Fowler on the Festival weekly column from Harry. Looking forward to Cheltenham. And we're going to be back on, what day is it today? I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Tuesday.
We'll be back Thursday with the usual Thursday night show with SD, as we look forward to the weekend's action this week coming from Kempton, Newcastle, and some flat action at Southall that we've already previewed on an Ante post show. So busy time here on Races Now. Thanks for tuning in, and we're looking forward to the festival. Thank you.